Hello and welcome back to the yearly vlog or update or whatever you call it. It's January the 6th and as I did last year, this is sort of a vlog about the year that have been and the coming times. Obviously there is a lot of stuff that I don't know how will go, but I always have an idea of where I want to go with the year that is to come. First off, the big hit in 2017 for me was obviously finishing up Skyrim. Well, I say finishing up because, as I hinted about, it's not done, but I want to make that happen, and but I also was at a point where I was beginning to get tired of playing Skyrim, and considering how much I love Skyrim, it's better for me to take a break from it and then return to it at some other point, so that I can remain in a position where I love to play Skyrim, and I do. I also had some, let's say, ups and downs. I started 2017 dropping out of my education, which affected me quite a lot, actually. And I wanted to make it. I tried as much as I could to not let it affect me in my videos, and looking back at it, I think I managed that pretty well. There may have been a couple of times where I have mentioned it, and perhaps you'll have noticed that around mid-February I got the time to make a lot of videos, so there was a lot of progress in that time, and then slowed down after that. I normally don't talk about my life all that much in the videos. I mean, I've talked a little bit about myself and the situation that I find myself in, but I don't usually go into a lot of detail about what am I doing with my life, where is my life going, how am I feeling, and so on, so on, so on. But I kind of wanted to do that this time because not because it's likely going to affect videos. It might, but again, that's a thing it's out in the future, potentially this year, maybe the next, I don't know. So I've been dealing during most of December and late November. I've been dealing with a lot of depressive and not particularly pleasant thoughts, being in doubt about my own capabilities, my own future, all of that stuff. It had basically filled my head and made it hard to concentrate on my education, and it hasn't always been easy. Not at all. And to make things worse, on the 20th of December, my computer's hard disk died. Simply. It basically had where there was a Windows update, and I was like, oh sure, just update it to what, and I went to restart it, and it never got back again. I don't think that's the fault of the Windows update, though. That is very unlikely that that's the case. But yeah, I took it in with some professional people who said, well, we can see that it's there, but we can't make it run. Do you have any important data on it? And at that point, well, shit. Because I did not expect that to happen, and I didn't have any other issues with it. I mean, it had done that before, but then it had solved itself somehow through numerous reboots, which eventually worked. So I was like, that's weird, but it works, so I just kind of forgot about it. But then it happened again, and I kind of have the feeling that even if I kept rebooting, it would not have started back up. So yeah, there's that. Now, I could have saved the files that I had on that hard disk if I had 15,000 Danish crowns, which I am nowhere near having. So yeah. So I lost everything. The good thing is that I didn't really have anything of importance, like tax papers and such, on that hard disk. So there's at least that. There were some documents that are nice to have that obviously aren't there anymore. But those can be recovered as I have them somewhere in paper form, either with me here or at my parents', where I can just scan them and basically have a digital copy once more. So that's not a big issue. Well, it essentially hit me harder than I thought, because I was already in that sort of depressive kind of state. And it isn't a winter depression, because I don't really care about it being dark and cold. I mean, I like it cold, and so I've never had winter depressions before, so I don't think it's that. But basically, what I believe I've gotten depressive thoughts about is my future. I haven't got a good track record when it comes to educations. I've already dropped out of 2 very large educations that I felt was the right thing for me when I started, and also when I stopped. But I had to stop because I wasn't sleeping, I was stressed, I had difficult times concentrating at all, and I couldn't make the tasks that the education demanded, and obviously had to stop. But deep down, I feel like if I were able to overcome that stress, essentially, that I could have carried through and finished it, and who knows, maybe gotten a job at this point. But that was not the case. Now I'm 26, nearing 27, and right now I don't feel particularly optimistic about my future. I have 0 job experience. I've always been in and out of educations, and have half years where nothing have happened, and I've just been sitting in my apartment basically doing nothing except playing video games, and that's fun, but that isn't what I want to do with my life. No, at least not the only thing. I want to play video games as well, but not like that. So yeah, those thoughts have basically, with my being prone to stress, being prone to depressive thoughts, and with my autism and Asperger's, those thoughts are filled a lot in my head, and it have been rough. It have been really rough. I won't sugarcoat that. So I went home during the holiday break and talked to my parents, talked to my sister, and that helped. That definitely helped. Talking about what I was feeling and what I was thinking definitely, it sort of ventilates so that it doesn't build up and become worse inside of you, and that was really important to me. I've also talked with a couple of people from courses and such that I've gone to that obviously care about how am I faring, or do we need some sort of backup plan, and hopefully I can get a revival on my diagnosis, because I feel that because I got the diagnosis when I was 18, where I was living at home at my parents and in a different situation than what I am in now. So I feel that the way that educations and jobs better could understand me would be if I had an updated diagnosis rather than an almost 9-year-old one that maybe not fit me at all right now. Because diagnosis is like autism can develop as you grow older, essentially, as you become more experienced in life and things change. I mean, the brain is constantly changing, even as basically the size of it stops growing about when you are 20, but you always mentally and psychic you're always developing as a person, and that is also something that affects diagnoses like autism. And I believe that I'm a different person now than I am when I was 18. And I believe my situation is different, and that could call for revival of my diagnosis. At least that's what I'm hoping. I've got a meeting the 18th of this month, essentially to attempt to hear of, is this possible, or do I have to stick with the same diagnosis? It might be the case that I can't get a new diagnosis, but, well, not a new diagnosis because it's still the same diagnosis, but I need an update to it. I need an update that fits me now, rather than one that says how I was when I was 18. And so yeah, that's basically what I've been doing, and I've been worried because I knew I have a pretty important test, almost an exam you could call it, coming up this Monday and also Wednesday for me, and well, I've managed to get an extra hour on the writing part of the exam, so that it leaves me with more room to essentially make less mistakes, but also to not stress out as much as I probably would. And I really don't think that stress is good for me in any situation. I mean, there is the exam stress, which is stress and adrenaline that you get in a small period, but then it also stops after that. So yeah, I'm still a bit worried because I'm not. Basically what I should probably explain what I'm trying to educate myself as. It's called web integrating. It's basically a mixture of some light front end and a little bit of back end programming. Where to the back end part of it, which we have been dealing with here around December, is not really my cup of tea. I've had a very difficult time following and understanding the things that the people teaching have been explaining. It's not that I haven't been trying and haven't been following. Well, I have had a slightly more difficult time concentrating because I probably don't get enough sleep. Again, with the depression and all of that. But I mean, the front end part, I feel like that I can do, albeit slower than most others on my course, and I'm definitely in the lower end of technical ability and knowledge about this area, but I feel that it's interesting, and I hope that it's something that I can carry through with. I mean, that's the plan. I have an idea to become a multimedia designer, which essentially, if everything goes to plan, which again with my track record, this seems unlikely, but I remain hopeful. That's essentially, I hope that it's something that I can do. Essentially, I feel that I need to put a marker down on like a bucket list where I say education done, and getting a job, well, that's going to be probably a lot difficult because, again, not being the greatest on my course, I'm like bottom end of the cookie jar. It might have been, this cookie is a bit soft and not nearly as tasty as other cookies. Still a cookie, but not a great one. Essentially, that's how I feel. I mean, the people there that are on the course are really, really great, and I feel like I fit in, but that still doesn't change the fact that when we're given a task and they're like done after 5 minutes, and I'm like writing the first few lines of code still, and that affects me too. But I try not to think about what others do, but it's just when there are so many people around you and the questions that I ask are like, I can barely answer any of them, and anyone around me feels like, well, they've got it covered. Then I sort of knock myself in the head about knowing that I don't have that technical ability, and that's probably not helpful for me, but that's something that I can't help. Okay, that's a bit. I think that it basically explains my situation as it is. The following year and the coming time, I will put my secondary playthrough, which is currently Day of the Tentacle, on hold. Partly because it takes more of my mental capacity to record Oblivion because of the format with recordings being over an hour long. And that means I don't have a whole lot of energy, and I don't have a whole lot of basically time to record a secondary playthrough. So I will return to it once I feel that I have the time. So when that is, I don't know. Obviously, I'm really looking forward to playing through the parts of Oblivion that I haven't played through yet. Even with the games being this old, and I'm slightly concerned because the fact that it already affects all of my controllers with not being able to go directly left on the analog, the left analog stick, which works in other games on the PlayStation 3. So that's not a problem. It's only for that game, and that shows that the disc is getting old and it's getting worn, and that worries me. So I want to basically finish Oblivion up so I can say that's done. Also because there's a lot of stuff that I've heard about the ending of the main story mode that I have not seen, and I'm really looking forward to seeing those. In regards to what I've lost also. So the hard drive had all of my video files, all of my audio files, and all of my thumbnails, everything. And that's gone. The problem is, my new hard disk, which, albeit is faster because it has an SSD, is very small. It's only a ninth of the old one's capacity. The old one had a full terabyte of data that you could store on it, and I was like, it wasn't even half full when it broke down, so it was like, that is weird. This one has 111 gigabyte. Yeah, you heard right. That is not a lot when you want to make videos to basically compare it. I couldn't even fit my Steam games, and there's not that many, on the hard disk. That's concerning, and that is definitely something that was like, how the hell do I fix this? I don't know anything about hardware. I barely know anything about software. I only scrape by. But I've come up with a temporary fix, which is essentially plugging in my 2 external hard disks in at all times. There's a terabyte on each of those, so that's 2 extra terabytes down the hatch. But there's still the looming feeling in the back of my head, like your hard disk isn't very big, so you need to be aware of everything that you save to it and everything that you use on it. And it's like, it's an extra thought that takes time out of what I wanted to do before, which I could do without worry before. I didn't care about the machine not being that fast because I wasn't really using it for anything that I required it to be fast for. Wasn't streaming a lot, wasn't doing anything like that. I mean, I could want that video uploading times were a bit faster, but that's a very small thing. So yeah, I'm currently, when I get the possibility and the opportunity to it, to save up to get a bigger hard disk installed, because this is only a temporary solution and it's more like a band-aid on a wound more than it's actually healing the wound. But what I lost in in that, because I had not only 1 but 3 unfinished videos which cannot be recovered. There was an episode of Oblivion. I've explained about that in the Oblivion series, that was lost. There was not a lot happening in that. I mostly ran around in the Imperial City and did some small quests, but it's still annoying to lose it. I also lost an 18-minute episode of Day of the Tentacle, which again isn't much compared to the others are usually around 30 minutes, but it's still really annoying that I lost it. More importantly than that, I lost the files that I didn't get to edit, which is all on me because I've had them almost a month, for my D&D campaign, which I obviously need to recap at some point, and that would have just been so much easier with the video in place, but obviously that's not possible now. So that bothers me quite a lot, but I can't really do anything about it, so there's that. I normally want to essentially wish people a happy year, and I still do, but this has been a bit of a downer vlog, but that's basically what my year has been like. There's a lot of things in my future that I don't know about and feel unsure about, and deep down I would like to say that everything is under control, but I don't feel like everything is under control. I feel like everything is actually more going into the direction of chaos, and if there's something which is speaking a bit in general about people with autism, if there's one thing that they don't need, it's chaos. People with autism generally likes that there is an order to things, that things are more or less the way they always have been, and don't really take all that well to change. And in my case, it was just the change was that I've begun thinking about a far out future. Normally I'm only thinking about what's to come in the next month, or maybe in the next year, but never really all that much in detail. But the recent thoughts, and added to that, I've begun feeling lonely. I haven't really, dating isn't really something that I do, but seeing the people that I call friends, and admittedly there aren't that many, around me having boyfriends or families or kids, or moving into a house and such, that hurts. And it's not that I'm jealous. It's more that I'd wish I could be in that situation as well, but that's unlikely. I'm not the type to go out to parties, which is, as far as I know, where most people meet for dating and such. And I've tried online dating with very little success. I've only been on a couple of speed dates, and that was super awkward for me, and I expect for the other part as well. So I'm not particularly optimistic about finding someone in my life to be with, because I just don't see how that will happen. But yeah, that's essentially what my year, and especially the last couple of months, have been like for me. Looking forward, if I pass this test, of course, that's a big if, but fingers crossed I managed to pull through, and hopefully without any too major difficulties. But essentially we are going on a field trip to Berlin. Now, my type of autism, or maybe that's just something with my character, I don't know, but I suspect that it's cause of my autism, is that I don't like to be in big crowds. I get claustrophobic, I get scared, I get nervous, and essentially I shut myself off and go into a state where I don't have to worry about all the people around me. Would not worry about breathing. It's a bit hard to explain, but if anyone have claustrophobia, it's essentially that feel, but only with people and not in small spaces. I don't mind big open spaces as long as there aren't a lot of people to it. And obviously Berlin is a very big city, and I've never been there before. The biggest city I've been in is London, and that was pretty bad. So that's going to be, I think it's in week 6, the start of February. So part of me is excited to go somewhere I haven't been, to see new places, and go with people that I find funny to be with. But that's also a very big part of me, is really not looking forward to being in this environment where there is a lot of people around me at all times. So I'll have to think about a way to deal with that, or to work my way around that, and that's a bit in the large unknown for now. I'm hoping to get more clearance of it, because we don't really know anything about the trip yet. They haven't even booked buses or planes yet. It's going to be a bus ride though, so that's a long one. But I've managed to buy a new MP3 player, so I just need to transfer a lot of music to it, and then hopefully sit in the right place in that bus, because I'm not prone to drive sickness per se, but I do get very, very dizzy if I'm not in either the very front of the bus or in the very back. And it's not. I've never been to the point where it's vomit inducing, but it has definitely been unpleasant for me, and feels like everything was floating around and I had trouble keeping my balance. It's gonna be rough for how long that drive is. So that's really hoping that I can get a good seat, but hopefully I can talk to the people of my education and explain the situation to them. I believe that explaining as good as you can how you are feeling, and if you know something is going to happen, talk to someone about it, because it helps. Just with my thoughts of my depressive thoughts, if I had not gone home to my family, that would basically have been very, very bad for me, because then it would just have gotten worse and worse and worse. You need to vent stuff like that out. So, yeah. But I think that's basically it. I know this vlog hasn't been much about my channel, but indirectly it has, because it's about me, and since I'm the only one on this channel, that's obviously a thing that's very important to me. I plan to keep on making videos in the future. If I am going to stop, you will definitely get a video about that, explaining why, and if it's a temporary thing, or if it's something that I feel like, no, I'm done with this, I don't need to waste my life making videos. If that moment comes, I will explain it in a video, and until the next video, I will just say, take care of yourself and take care of others. Bye.